Spider-Man 2, everybody. Let's unpack this thing in a spoiler-free kind of way. Put your hand in the air if you want to ask a question. Ask a reviewer of Spider-Man. Anything you want about Spider-Man. Ian, you wanted to stay up here?
I do. I love Spider-Man so much.
Oh, great. Thank you to all these folks at the MinnMax Council tier on Patreon. They can call in each and every week. As a reminder, if you are a supporter at the MinnMax Council tier, Party Chat is our bonus podcast where they can talk about whatever they want. And today, by God, we're talking about Spider-Man 2. Okay, first things first. Truffaut, you can jump up whenever you're ready. This game is very, very, very good. I just rolled credits a couple of hours ago. Mainly focusing on the core story, and it took me about 18 hours.
That's short.
Yeah, it was shorter than I thought, but that's just, I cannot emphasize it enough, like really focusing just on the main stuff. I did a couple of side things, but there's a ton to do. I think like overall percentage in the game, I may be like under 60. So there's still a ton of side content to do. And some of those, one in particular, I could not be more into. Like, oh, I love they put this character in here and I love this side content. It seems like a big, weird story and I really want to know where it goes. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff to get to in Spider-Man 2. So I definitely want to keep going, even though I finished it. But yeah, big things. I mean, it's the best PS5 game. It's one of the most impressive games ever made. Really loved it. I like the story in the first half more than the second half, but again, no spoilers here, but still overall was really blown away. And like, I'm somebody, which is such an obnoxious way to phrase it. But I enjoyed those last two Spider-Man games, Miles Morales and the 2018 Spider-Man. And then I went back and looked at like my top 10 games of the year for that year, those 2 years. And it wasn't in my top 10. So like, I love both those games, but just like, it was good. It was popcorn, but this is quite a bit higher than that for me. Like there's no way it's not going to be in my top 5 at this point for game of the year, because I really, really enjoyed it. But spoiler free, what questions do y'all have? Let me kick it off with, there was a text question submitted on Patreon. Philly Eat Steak asks, how are the suits? They are good. There are a lot of them. So in Spider-Man 2, it's interesting, like you can unlock suits by doing certain quests and certain like side quests. And it's like, hey, you do all these, you'll get a suit at the end. It lets you know. Otherwise, it's odd. It just kind of like slowly rolls out suits for Peter and Miles throughout the course of the game. So it's just every once in a while when you're doing your upgrade tree and stuff like that, you just open up and be like, oh yeah, what's going on in the suit tab? Okay, I now have, Spider-Man Noir suit, okay, and just a bunch of other wacky stuff. But I'm one of those weirdos that I want to play the game and look like the way the storyline wants me to look at that time. So I was always being pretty strict about, let me stick to the way they want this character to look in this moment. It's an interesting thing, no spoilers, but in the trailers, you might have seen, thank you, dog. You might have seen that the symbiote suit is a big thing in the game. And so it is weird that at a certain point, you can just like wear another Spider-Man suit, even though you have the symbiote suit, and you think it's like all consuming, but I guess lore wise, it's like, oh no, but he's wearing the suit over the symbiote suit or something. They don't really explain it, but you still do have suit options on top of that. But let's see, Risky Chris P, you were the first to put your hand in there. What would you like to know about Spider-Man 2?
Hello. I have 2 questions. I guess the main one is, how do you feel they balance playing between Peter Parker and Miles Morales? Because especially from a gameplay standpoint, I remember after finishing Miles Morales thinking it would be really tough to go back to playing as Peter, because I feel like his electric powers just added a lot of fun combat options. And I know that they probably help a little bit with that by adding, the symbiote powers. And I think in some of the trailers they've shown like the iron spider stuff. Yeah. But in your, having played it now, what would you say? How do they handle that? Yeah,
very well. You're exactly right that they make up for, I think, Miles being a more interesting character to play with the symbiote stuff, and they give Peter new moves in there, and so I never felt bummed out to be playing as Peter compared to Miles. And I think, for a while I was worried about like, oh, am I going to be getting like jumbled up for the moves and stuff between these two? But you can customize, like, if you want your AoE attack on the same button for each character, you can do that. And so it works surprisingly well. And you know what it adds up to, and I think this is for the overall game, and we're going to be talking about it a lot more on the MinnMax Show podcast this week with other folks who finished it. But the big thing is it's just there's so much variety in this game. Even in the main crit path, you're just constantly doing different stuff. And I think being able to swap between Miles and Peter just adds even more variety, where it's like, you know, even with this game, you get a little bit sick of combat. I feel like a lot of these games in the past, mainly in thinking of 2018 and even Miles Morales, was like, enough with the fights. I get the idea. But I think that's helped this time around with the variety of just swapping between those two characters so much. It's like, okay, I got to remember with this character, I have these moves, this character, I have this move. So even that helps it feel fresh, even if you're still fighting the same people over and over and over again, you know? And so, yeah, it handles it really well. It's an awesome feeling to be swinging around the city. You know, there's a random crime going on. You're Peter, you go down there, you're fighting some baddies. All of a sudden, Miles just swings by like, hey, need some help? And then just,
I love that.
It's so good. And like the animations of those two like working together for just like a slow motion moment. Like Miles would come through, punch a guy in front of Peter. Peter will give him like a big thumbs up as he swings away. Like it is awesome. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. Like it really is just an unbelievable feeling. Yeah.
If this is a spoiler, you don't have to say, but
sure.
How does switching between them work? As far as like, as I understand it, if I'm tell me if I'm wrong. In the open world, you can swap anytime.
Yep.
But are like main missions kind of segmented as this is a Peter mission and this is a Miles mission?
That's exactly it. And it's nice because you'll go to the mission and it'll be like, hey, this mission's for Miles. Do you want to switch to Miles right now? And you don't have to go like find Miles wherever he is in New York and swing him over there. It's like, oh, let's switch to Miles right now. We're Miles, launch the mission. And most of the side quests are like either person can do it. There's some that are specific to one person or the other. So yeah, pretty seamless. There is like every once in a while there is a little hiccup if you really want to try and push it. Like maybe they'll patch this in a way because, you know, full disclosure, you know, we got this game really early, which is awesome. Everybody's had a lot of time, which is why you've seen so many reviews go live today, right? That said, a little bit buggy, but you know, it's before the game's released. So I'm sure the day one patch is going to take care of a lot of the stuff. But I mean, I had it crash on me once. I halted all progress once and I had to reinstall. But again, I'd imagine most of this stuff is going to be cleared up. Who knows? Do your own research when the game comes out. But the version I played was a little bit buggy around the edges. But the point is, I don't think they can patch this. But what would happen is like, you know, that awesome moment when you see like Miles come by and help you out in a fight. I then tried testing it where then I bring up the smartphone and it's like, all right, now I'm going to switch to Miles real quick. And I did. And then it was suddenly Miles like hanging out in a building on the other side of New York. You know, so it doesn't quite factor in literally where he is. So you can bust it a little bit that way if you want, but it's so cool that it doesn't really matter in a big way. But Notzilla, what would you like to know about Spider-Man?
The villains. Am I able to spoil 2018 a little bit?
Yeah, you can spoil 2018 Spider-Man, sure.
Okay, with the Sinister Six, they didn't go into the actual Sinister Six stories that well. It was more like, hey, we're here to cause bad guys. Do they actually allow the extra villains they introduce in this game to flesh them out a little bit better?
It's a good question. Yes, I think they do. I don't, Yeah, there's some good backstory stuff for the villains in this game. And, you know, Kraven the Hunter is in it. And he might be hunting villains in particular. And so like, even as you're learning more about Kraven, through that process, you're also learning more about the other villains that he's hunting, if that makes sense. And so it kind of kills two birds there, I suppose. And so don't expect, you know, a wild expose on Scorpion, but it's like, oh, there's details in there that are interesting.
And I guess my other question is, will we need a box of tissues for this game, or is that too much of a spoiler?
Too much of a spoiler. Cannot confirm nor deny, but there were emotions. Hello, Truffaut.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Hello.
I saw there was a news outlet that uploaded their review as opposed to their preview yesterday. But I'm just curious, what level of spoilers is this game capable of? Are we talking Infinity War levels? Should I be avoiding the internet altogether?
There are surprises in this game. You know, people are... I'm not even going to say what it is, and don't say it, but, you know, the launch trailer had some stuff where they're like, oh, the certain people, you know, regret watching the launch trailer because they reveal some stuff that they haven't revealed so far. I will say, even if that is spoiled for you, not the end of the world. I really loved going into the story, having no idea where it was going to go and who's going to be in it, all that type of stuff. So I don't even want to confirm like, oh, it's a very spoilerable game, because that's kind of hinting at stuff. But there are surprises. But if you can, avoid the launch trailer, but it's not the end of the world if you see it.
That's great. And then additionally, how important is Miles Morales, the video game, to this story?
They do a very nice recap of 2018 and 2020, or Miles Morales at the start of the game. It's relevant. There are times where it's like, we should be talking about those characters from that 2020 game a little bit more. Everything is referenced. And some things are more important than others, if that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. Pumpkin number 6. What do you want to know about Spider-Man 2?
It's another suit adjacent question.
Sure.
So I love the suits in the first game. Big Spider-Man fan, so it was cool to recognize ones and see Last Stand suit and actually know where it was from.
Yeah.
But then see Fear itself and be like, okay, I don't know what that is. Go to my Marvel app and just read the entire Fear itself line of comics.
Yeah.
What percentage were you wait, what's this suit? Versus oh, that's cool, that's there because everyone knows Miguel O'Hara now, so it's 2099 is an obvious one or whatever.
Yeah. So far, there's a lot of suits I'm sure I don't have at this point, even after finishing the game. A lot of optional side quest suits and stuff like that. So far, it's a lot of movie suits are kind of the mainline stuff. So percentage-wise, stuff where I'm like, what the hell is this? 30 to 40% going through the main campaign. Where I have no reference for what this is. Maybe 30%. Most of it's okay, I've seen that before. You kind of get the idea. But
some deep cuts in there.
I think there will be some deep cuts for you, I'm sure. There's but also there's different collectibles that also allow for deeper cuts, and I won't even spoil this collectible, I guess, but there's kind of thematic collectibles that also let them kind of tie into larger Spider-Man stuff in a fun way for fans. And I will say, again, no spoilers, but there was several times through this game where I was like, oh, this is in my mind, from my perception, some deep Spider-Man stuff. As mainly someone who just has watched the movies, I will love the cartoon show as a kid. There was some stuff where I'm like, this is some weird comic stuff. I don't even know what this is referencing. But I'll let you discover all that stuff. Let's see. We have Neil. Hello, Neil the mod.
Hi, I had a question about Spider-Man.
Yes, this
probably
is
the most
Spider-Man
important
Hotline.
question, I think, that I'm surprised no one else has brought up. Has the worst thing about the first game come back in the second game? I'm asking, of course, are there screwball challenges and are they awful?
What are the screwball challenges again?
That the girl in the white suit with the pink stripes that does Instagram stuff
Sure.
and likes
Voice
and
actress.
stuff, and it's
Yeah.
From, what was that Insomniac game? The one on Xbox.
The one on
Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, the voice actress.
Okay.
And I kind of like the screwball ones. I thought you were talking about the Mary Jane and Miles Morales stealth missions.
Yeah.
That's when you said worst thing.
I kind of nothinged them until I did the DLC content, but there's a DLC that takes them to a completely second level where they are just an awful slog to do, and I hated them.
I didn't do those challenges in the first game. I have not seen them in this game, and there's a wink and a nod to the backpack stuff from the last game as well. And it's actually a big part of the game is, which I think is really smart, is they're trying to de-emphasize the mini map. I really haven't spent that much time. Maybe I will now that I'm trying to mop up everything else in the game. But I haven't spent that much time just staring at the map. Okay, set a waypoint here, go do this, go do this. It's really good about having a very visual indicator for there's a little side quest over here, side quest over here. And so I think it's a lot smoother experience for just catching your eye with subtle things in the distance. Okay, I know if I go over there, it's going to be this type of thing. So yeah, I think it's working out well. Let's see. Ian, did you already ask your question?
No, I was so the way games handle leveling up, either they start you out with everything and they Metroid you, right? Or there's a slow, steady progression and you get these powers and you keep these powers. And I don't want any spoils, obviously.
Sure.
But the symbiote comes with powers. But at some point, you would assume the symbiote is gone. Or do they handle that progression well? Where they give you the keys and then they take them away?
They handle the progression well. It is a fascinating conundrum. I think there's a lot of design challenges with exactly what you're talking about. And you're in good hands. They know what they're doing over at Insomniac is the best way to phrase that.
Right.
Let's
That's my
see.
case.
Okay. Thank you.
I got another one for you. If you got a
Yeah,
minute.
for sure. Go for it.
Since Alan Wake is probably going to be the winner of the deepest dive, are you going to do an individual episode just on the story of this one?
Well, we are doing the deepest dive on Alan Wake 2. It's going to be the best, most thorough discussion about Alan Wake 2 on the internet, so you can help support it if you want to unlock the podcast version of that or contribute to it over on Patreon. I haven't talked to enough other folks from the MinnMax crew who have finished Spider-Man, but I would love to do a Max spoilers, like bonus discussion talking about Spider-Man 2. So I'd imagine that would happen, but not 100% guaranteed. I'll put it at 85% because I do think there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and I took 300 pages of notes about it. Let's see. B. Wood, what would you like to talk about?
So I wanted to ask, you said about Miles Morales that you didn't really care for the story. I'm wondering, it sounds like you said like you liked the first half of this one, not so much the second half. Is Miles' story better to you in your opinion in this one?
That's interesting.
Do you feel... Sorry.
No, let me cut you off rudely. Did I say that during the deepest dive on Miles Morales that I didn't like the story?
Okay, so I actually think you said it during the 2020,
like 210s,
or maybe
or
it was
whatever.
2021, but the 210s. Yeah, I think it was during one of the 210s you were mentioning, and you just kind of said when discussing it that like you just you liked the first game's story and not so much the second. Not to say maybe you didn't necessarily say it was bad, but you just it didn't really click with you.
That's exactly it. It's I think I like 2018's story more than I like Miles Morales' story. And so Miles, yes, I liked his story in this game a lot. Overall, it's a weird thing. Overall, I was more invested in the first half of this game than I've been in any Spider-Man game. Like I was more invested in this story. I mean, more than anything since God of War Ragnarok. And then to be fair, it's not that I don't like the second half of the game. It's just I was slightly less in love with it, So still, it's all shades of gray. But yeah, Miles has they definitely spend a lot of time with Miles in this game. I think if you're a huge Miles Morales fan, you'll be satisfied by everything they give you in this thing.
But you're saying you definitely think that Miles' story this time around is better than the story from
if you were, it's all like interweaving. It does kind of a weird thing. If you just take Miles' story from this, yeah, I probably do like it more than Miles Morales' main story, I suppose, with the tech giant and all that stuff. But yeah, I suppose so. But overall, we'll be talking more about Spider-Man 2 on this week's episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. You can always subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app. We're going to have Jacob Geller from YouTube fame, Kyle Hilliard, and Jeff Marchiafava and I all unpacking our spoiler-free thoughts again on Spider-Man 2. But it's so good. Like I had the code for a while and I was busy playing other games for the podcast before I got around to it. And the second I started up, I'm like, why was I waiting so long? This rules. This is so damn good. Crowboy asked a very important question. Do they still call Miles' abilities Venom powers? Yes, they do. Yes, they do call them Venom powers. Is it addressed in a way later on? I'll let you be the judge. But that was a debate Kyle Hilliard and I had back during the deepest dive in Miles Morales. So it'll be fun to check back with him about all that stuff. But let's see. That's it. Thank you so much for watching or listening to Party Chat, our bonus podcast for everybody in that bonus podcast feed at the $5 tier on Patreon. Greatly appreciate it. You can unlock this each and every week. Thanks to everybody at the MinnMax Council tier for calling in, asking questions about everything under the sun and Spider-Man 2. And just a reminder, Trivia Tower. We are having the next episode of Trivia Tower Tuesday, October 17th. If you jump in and support us at any tier on Patreon, even the $2 tier, you can compete in video game trivia, and it's never been easier to win a code. You support us on Patreon, you help support independent games media, you help support all this content we create, and then you get access to the Discord. The Discord is where you answer the questions that we volley your way in Trivia Tower. If you get one question correct, the first to get a question correct, you will win a game code. We have a ton of game codes for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and a ton more to give away. So just one question correct. You only have to know one answer, and you get a game code. So it's never been easier. So patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Support us in a tier. We appreciate that, and we'll see you Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, October 17th for Trivia Tower. Thanks everybody for supporting the show, and thanks for supporting this entire independent games media outlet known as MinnMax. This was a clip from Party Chat, our Patreon exclusive podcast that airs every single Monday. The podcast features cohorts and friends of the show, contributors, talking directly to the MinnMax community. So if you're looking for even more podcasts from MinnMax, this is the place to go. Just head to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, support us at the $5 tier, and you can listen to Party Chat every single week. Thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate it.